Previously on Funny Science Fiction.
I'm okay.
Your thoughts betray her now, too. And if you won't just join the dark side,
Holy cow, that's
perhaps she will.
I'm okay.
Tim's just gonna bounce and giggle over there for a little bit.
Hi, this is Josh Pruett, and you're listening to the Funny Science Fiction Podcast.
The podcast that reminds you that there's a very thin line between insanity and genius, but here it's definitely drawn in crayon. All right, so our guest today is the very first to make a return trip to the Funny Science Fiction Podcast. By the way, we're calling this episode Pruett Part 2, Electric Boogaloo.
I like that even better than Josh Pruett 2.0.
There you go. Yeah, so Josh Pruett, by the way, if you guys haven't, if you're not familiar with Josh, he's the only human on Earth to have written for Mystery Science Theater 3000 and Doctor Who. He's a Primetime Emmy and Annie Award nominated TV writer, author, and storyboard artist with work on shows that I guarantee you know and have watched, like Phineas and Ferb, Milo Murphy's Law. He's got a show upcoming called Hamster and Gretel. These are all Dan Povenmire projects. And so I'm sure you're familiar with those as well. And like we mentioned, there's Mystery Science Theater 3000, Doctor Who. There's so many more. Just go check out his IMDb. But all that being said, we are ecstatic to welcome back Josh Pruett to the Funny Science Fiction Podcast.
Yay, I'm so happy to be here. Thank
Howdy.
you, everybody.
We still can't believe you said yes again.
Oh, yeah.
So-
my
You
pleasure.
said yes again, and I'm still here somehow. This is. You were
yeah.
questioning whether or not-
Yeah, I'm not replacing anybody, I don't think.
No,
I think this is
No.
like Kathleen's anniversary too. Like,
it is.
Oh,
This-
nice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You were my second interview, and it
That's
was
awesome.
Kathleen back after the Dan Povenmire episode with the. She still hasn't completely lost her mind. I'm like, yeah.
Yay.
Here we are a year later.
How
So
long ago? So that was a year ago?
that was a year ago.
Yeah.
Okay, so that means I did not have this.
No, you did not.
have that.
So now I'm
Nice.
Emmy winning.
Aha.
Winning.
I missed that. That's fantastic.
Right.
Yay, congratulations.
So yeah, we won for Candace Against the Universe. We won.
That's fantastic,
a Daytime
dude.
Emmy Award, which is it's completely insane. Yeah.
Yeah, that's
That is so
fantastic.
cool.
So
Congratulations.
that was in the summertime. Yeah. So yeah, it has been like a year, right?
Mhm.
It's been
Yeah,
like a year,
absolutely.
yeah.
Yeah.
Because you were
Yeah.
Emmy nominated still when you were here last
I was
time.
Emmy nominated. Yeah. Mhm.
Yeah, I missed that you won the Emmy. That's fantastic. So
Yeah.
sometimes I like being wrong and being shown where I was wrong. This is one of those instances where I'm like,
I
yeah,
was
that's
I was
awesome.
gonna interrupt you, and I was like, no. I want to show it to them. I want. Yeah.
Don't let your wife know that you like being told that you're wrong, though, Tim.
She doesn't listen to the show. It's
It'll never stop.
He's
it's
not
fine.
wrong. Look, I can't convince my family and friends to watch the show. I have to convince other people. Uh,
You convinced
All right.
at least one of your friends to be on the show instead of watching it. So does that work?
I think that counts.
It
I think
totally
that probably
counts.
counts. Yeah.
Totally counts.
I brought in a few viewers, so I think it balanced it out a little bit.
It works. All right, so I wanted to make sure that because I am brand new to the Doctor Who landscape, literally today, we were talking about this pre-show, but I wanted to make sure that Nick and Kathleen didn't get all the Doctor Who questions. So I wanted to make sure I got this one in. Now, the last time you were here, we talked about your time working on Mystery Science Theater 3000 and what that meant to you because of being a lifelong fan of
Yeah.
that show and how excited you were to work on that. But for those who aren't familiar with you, you're also a massive Whovian. You're a huge Who fan. And if you follow him on Twitter, his Twitter handle is actually at Zombie TARDIS. Okay, so to kind of give you an idea of what we're talking about here. So my question is for you. We know what it was like for you to be a writer with Mystery Science.
Yes.
But what
yeah.
was it like for you to be able to write about Doctor Who and be able to add your voice to that universe?
Like in both cases, it's makes me speechless. But I think in Doctor Who specifically, it's like at this point we're talking about something with a 60-year history.
Mm-hmm.
And not only that, but is primarily written by people who are not born here. It is a chiefly and successfully a British export.
Right.
And part of its identity is that it is something that is English, and for me it's like a legacy thing, like part of I mean, yeah, there's a story I want to share, and we'll come to it, but about the day I got to actually listen to on some of the recording, which was like a dream come true. And I ended up writing like a journal entry all about it, but and I want to share that with y'all. But like it was like kind of flabbergasting. Like when I the short version is that I'd been following a lot of the Doctor Who talent on Instagram and Twitter and stuff. And for those who don't know, like Doctor Who, not only as a TV series, but as this giant property, has years of comic books, novels, novelizations, original novels, and audiobooks. Chief among them produced by the BBC and also a company called Big Finish. And they started out essentially as a fan company, and there's like 2 or 3 of them, and they were doing essentially the equivalent of a fan podcast, fan audiobooks.
Mhm.
And that kind of built from there, and they produced a number of very professional sounding productions. And then BBC at the time, which was kind of fallow with Doctor Who content, gave them the license. I don't imagine it was easy in any way, but they had Big Finish had proven themselves at this point. As David Haig Ellery and Nicholas Briggs back in the early days, I think Gary Russell as well. So they started producing original Doctor Who stories with some of the classic Doctors. And this was at a time when the show had already been off the air, and they didn't think that Doctor Who was ever coming back. And so what Big Finish ended up doing with a very high caliber of writing talent is that they really kept it alive. And not just from a brand standpoint, but like amazing stories, to the point where there are quite a few in the Russell T Davies era that are directly inspired by some of the Big Finish productions. And so as a fan, so I started watching, I was a kid. My first memory is I was visiting my dad in New York. There was a Tom Baker episode on KPBS, and I had no idea what the heck was going on, but literally had that Doctor Who fan experience of like hiding behind the couch. And in my head, I keep it's either Ark in Space or Seeds of Doom, and I don't know which, because I think they merged in my memory banks. But there was definitely some body horror happening, and it could have been like bubble wrap that's in Ark in Space that's covering for somebody metamorphizing into a giant bug. But then there was also a guy in a tub who was transforming, which I think is in Seeds of Doom. So one or both of those scared the heck out of me as an 8-year-old, and I hid behind the couch. And I didn't find out until much later that that's very much a rite of passage for Doctor Who fans. And to the point where there are a couple of critical analyses books out there that are actually called like, Behind the Couch or Hiding Behind the Couch.
Oh, that's cool.
But there's a long way around of me saying, there is, when you kind of get into the show as a fan, there are thousands of stories out there, depending on your media of choice. And the beauty part is, I don't know that I could ever read or collect all of them, which is great. So it gives me a wonderful hobby for the rest of my life. But also I was like, wow, how amazing would it be to write one of these?
Yeah.
And so what I did was I was following a lot of these writers who were writing novels and the audios and just trying to learn how to do it. And I ended up following Big Finish, and I was buying a lot of their material. It was amazing. And submitted to 3 or 4 of their open calls for writers. They have a couple of different competitions that they run. Got rejected from all of them, but ended up I got one email saying that they really liked the story. So there was a little glimmer of hope. And then what happened was I ended up following a woman named Jacqueline Rayner, who's a hugely talented writer, and she's been writing Doctor Who material for over 20 years at this point. She wrote a really great original novel called Stone Rose, featuring the 10th Doctor and Rose. This was for BBC Books. But she'd been working for Big Finish for years. And when I found her Twitter handle, her icon was Vanessa from Phineas and Ferb. And this is after I've been on went and gone on Phineas and Ferb. And so then we kind of started like a mutual admiration society. And she was just a peach to get to know, even digitally. And I'm one of these people who's really benefited from Twitter, and I very much focus on all the benefits and the wonderful people I've met.
Mhm.
When the time came, different opportunities will come up in the Doctor Who space, and a couple times I asked Jack for a recommendation, and she was kind enough to pass my name on, and nothing really came of it until over a year ago now. I got an email, a direct message from her saying that she had been hired to produce a brand new series of 6th Doctor adventures. So this is Colin Baker, who she'd written for years. And so she was in charge of kind of launching a new line of 6th Doctor stories. And she asked if I would be willing to write an episode. And I kid you not, I cried. So I was on my walk in the morning and just checking my email, and saw her email and started crying my way home.
Nice.
So that's a
That's
long
awesome.
way of me saying like that's how I felt about it, is that it was like
I love it.
I was moved by it. It was absolutely amazing. And I was like, I wrote her back right away. I was like, I don't care what the money is. It doesn't matter. Like whatever you want. And then went from there, and we can get into the details. But yeah, it felt like another life-changing moment.
So
Well, that-
realization of a lifelong dream, really.
Oh my
Yeah.
God, yeah.
And that actually leads perfectly into my question, because I was going to ask you about it being a 6th Doctor adventure, writing for a
Yeah.
Doctor who in our reality has come and gone.
Yes.
That you kind of have your own sort of sci-fi feel to it, just in you're writing for a character that doesn't exist anymore,
Right.
but always exists, because
Yes.
that's how sci-fi works.
Totally.
So I just wanted to know more about like the story itself and where people can
Sure.
find it. And please, you said that you have a journal entry that you want to share with us. Like, tell us more about this project, because that is a once in a lifetime childhood dream come true. Amazing opportunity.
Oh, yeah, you're totally right. So let's get into the general stuff, and then I'll talk about that day. So essentially the way it works, and luckily with my TV writing experience, it was something that I didn't feel super intimidated by, thank goodness. So I felt like when the opportunity came, it was one of these things where it's like, oh, I'm ready. Like, I write for a living, I know how to do this, I can generate ideas. So the way it worked was they set up for me that I was going to be in the first box set, and it was going to feature a brand new companion who her name is Hebe Harrison, who is the first wheelchair user companion in the history of Doctor Who. Jack
cool.
is actually a wheelchair user herself, and so she wanted to make sure that this was handled in the right way, and that we build a character who's not defined by that, but it is part of who she is.
Sure.
So the big idea ended up being, this is her first box set. So Jack is going to be writing her introductory episode where she meets the Doctor for the first time. So your rose-shaped episode, let's say. And then Jonathan Morris was going to come in, another amazing writer. Like, I'm literally sandwiched between 50 years of Doctor Who experience, and they are some of the best of the best. And so I felt like I was like the crappy hamburger, like a little half baked, like maybe needs to go back on the barbecue like a little bit. But Jack was gonna kind of like serve us up, and then Jonathan on the back end was gonna kind of deliver this much more epic finale that was gonna tee up what's coming. And Jack had kind of a big plan. And so she came to me and said, okay, Josh, this is the first off-world adventure for this companion. And I was like over the moon. and pun intended. And I ended up pitching like 7 ideas to her and script editor Robert Valentine. And Rob has been with Big Finish for some time. He also has written a lot of other work in audio. And he gave me some of the best notes of my career, by the way. Working with him was great. For Doctor Who fans out there, one of my favorite notes is I did have a moment in my story where the cloister bell went off. And the cloister bell in the show is something in the TARDIS that kind of signals that things are really bad, like very, very bad. And it's used sparingly in the series, in the classic and modern series. But I had my TARDIS crashing, and I was like, oh, fun, I get to use the cloister bell. And one of Rob's first notes was like, hold on to it. Hold on to that cloister bell, and you can use it maybe down the road if you do another story. And I was like, okay, fair enough. But it was I felt like if I was going to write a Doctor Who story, I didn't know if I was ever going to have the chance to do it again. And I thought, I want to say everything I feel about Doctor Who and the Doctor and put it and give it to the Sixth Doctor. So I pitched like totally wild stories. Jack's kind of her premise that she wanted me to, it's like weird, wild, funny, crazy. So that after her tee up, it's like I deliver then on the big wild adventure. And they narrowed it down to kind of 2.5, 3 choices. We combined one of them. And then another one they kind of earmarked. I came up with a cool idea for a villain. Hopefully that within 2 or 3 years, if I get to do this again, I will come back and we will talk about that villain. But the one they landed on was an idea I pitched about the moon, where TARDIS crew gets shipwrecked on the moon, but like 3 or 4 billion years in the past. And the moon is covered by an ocean. And they meet really fun, interesting creatures there, and plenty of monsters, and a catastrophe that they have to deal with. So that was the initial process. So that was how we got started.
That's cool.
That's good.
Yeah, I like it.
Go ahead. Yeah. Yep.
So I'm still sitting here with you had to write for Doctor Who, like,
right? Yes.
God.
So you said you had a journal entry that you wanted to share?
Yeah. So the next thing that happened was we had to do a number of passes. We built the story, and then I essentially wrote double what I needed to. So I was learning as I was going. But by the time we got it to length, it ended up being around 80 some odd pages. And so it's like 2 40-page chunks. I really wanted to have the chance. Let me see if I can find this for you guys really quick. I really wanted to have the chance to listen in to the record. And I ended up asking Rob, and he kind of shared with me that, he only very rarely had the chance to do that. So I was like, oh, okay, no big deal. And I was like, okay, I'm just going to take this for what it is. It's an amazing experience. I can't wait to hear, what they do with it, right? So I was focused on the positive, you guys, right?
Mm-hmm.
Right.
So what I at the last minute I found out, and this was like June of last year, okay, just to give y'all some context. And at the last minute, my wife was like, I heard that they were recording, and my wife was like, why don't you email Jack? Just ask her if you can sit in on Zoom. And obviously we're still in the pandemic. So, I knew nobody was really going into the studio. Everything was going to be Zoom anyway. And so Amanda's like, just write her. I'm like, okay. Now remember, everything's 8 hours ahead, right? So they are all, the night before, I'm going, okay, well, whatever, worth a shot. So I write her, and then I go to sleep. And when I get back up, I've got emails from Jack saying, you're going to get a link from the editor where are you? Where are you? And she's like, she's tweeting at me, she's texting me, she's emailing me. And I'm like, oh my God, oh my God. And it's like, it's the end of their record day, and like they're literally wrapping up. They're literally on the last, 4 or 5 scenes. And the way they do this, like like so much respect for these actors. Like they come in and they are like studio musicians who show up, expertly play what they need to do, and get in, get out, make incredible choices, and then they're done. And so they've been recording all day long. And she's like, come in, come in, come in. So I follow the link. I put clothes on. It's not going to be on video, but I'm like, okay, I have to at least get dressed if I'm going to, if I'm going to meet the 6th Doctor. So this is what happens. So I want to walk you guys through this. So, so just to have a record of how nuts today was, Jack had told me that they were going to record Tuesday in the UK for my episode. I had asked Rob before about whether or not they allowed people to sit in, and he said he'd ask, but he hadn't heard anything in the past. He suggested that they didn't usually even include him, so it didn't sound like it was going to go down. I was pretty resigned to it, and that was cool, and it was okay. And so I was just excited about the day. And so have been annoying Amanda and the kids about it all week long and just being excited. So we were in the van and I was like, they're going to record my Doctor Who today. They're going to record my Doctor Who today. So this morning when I was bugging Amanda about it, it occurred to me that maybe if they were doing it on Zoom, I could just ask Jack if she could take a photo or something, just so I had like a record of this thing happening today. And then I kind of changed my mind and decided not to email or bother her about it. But Amanda, my wife, who is the best, because she's the best, was like, honey, just send the email. Just, it doesn't hurt to ask. So then I email her, and 5 minutes later, she's emailing me on Facebook and Twitter and Gmail, telling me that the engineer is going to send me a link to sit in on the record, which is totally mind-blowing. So I get her text, and I'm just like barely getting dressed, like it was some 80s movie, and I'm suddenly late to some really important event. So I throw on some clothes, I set up my computer, I click the link, and right away I can hear Colin Baker and the other actors reading and performing my scene. It was totally nuts. So I'm just sitting there being quiet and just hearing them do what they do. And they're all so professional and so good at their jobs that they only do, 2 takes because the stuff sounds really good. Like the actors are making wonderful choices, and at this point in the record are totally comfortable in their characters after 6 or 8 hours. But I can hear Bonnie Langford being Mel, and I can hear Ruth Madeley being Hebe, and it's mind-blowing. And then it gets better. So then I hear either Jack or Helen Goldwyn, who is our amazing director, say, oh, we've got Josh the writer with us. And I'm fumbling with the technology, and they can't hear me at first, but everyone's all pumped about me being there. Crazy surprise. And I hear somebody throw out, me being a Phineas writer, and how jazzed they all were about that, which is also mind-blowing in and of itself. But I'm talking to the Doctor and Mel for real, and they've just spent the day recording my script. And they're very complimentary and enthusiastic, and I can't really say much more than how excited I am and how it's a dream come true. And then Jack chimes in and mentions how I'm a huge Doctor Who fan. And they ask, so is this your first Doctor Who script? And I said, yes, it's my first. And Jack says, I'm a huge fan, and they ask, how I got involved with Doctor Who. And I said that I pretty much stalked Jack on Twitter, and everybody laughed. And somebody said maybe that was a little too much information. And I elaborated, but everyone was very warm and friendly and just amazing. And then Jack says I should sit in and listen to the record. And this is the thing that I thought I wasn't going to get to do, but here I am. I'm listening to these actors I've watched on television read and record my script. And initially I'm bummed because we were so late in the story. So like in the last 2 or 3 scenes. And some of those moments are my favorites. Once our characters have saved the day. And I'm still kind of marveling at the actors' choices. And between moments, Colin is being very complimentary of my work. And Bonnie sparkles as Mel, so vibrant and pitch perfect. And Andrew James Spooner is crackling as Clutch Father. And Colin is in top form, restrained but commanding, and knows exactly what he's doing. And Ruth is so human and present and real. And Sam Stafford as Wolk, he's like one of our friendly aliens, is goofy and awkward. And Verge Gilchrist as Helios is spot on. The weight of the world on her shoulders with just a hint of joy and imagination. I am blown over. Then, as they're organizing what actor needs to do what in the next scene, in between each scene, Sam, the actor who's playing Wolk, is thrilled because, spoilers, and I'll come back to this.
Spoilers.
And Colin mentions me by name and advocates for me in the middle of this conversation, is very complimentary. And the doctor is making space for me and making me feel a part of the process. And I'm trying to catch all this as I remember, because I don't want to forget this for the rest of my life. So then Sam, the actor, mentions how he's a huge Milo Murphy fan, which is also completely crazy. And I finally get to the part where the doctor and Helios say goodbye to one another in the story. And it's one of my favorite moments from the script. And they just absolutely nail it. And one of the other actors, Sam, I think, comments on what a touching scene it is. And it just feels really amazing. And then they get to the end, and Jack and Helen are trying to organize doing the short interviews as part of the normal behind the scenes. And as they do, Colin advocates for me again, the doctor standing up for me, the doctor. And he says, hey, make sure you record the writer. Make sure you record Josh while he's here for the behind the scenes. And I laugh and tell him thanks. So that was that day.
That is so awesome.
That is the coolest.
That's fantastic.
And I like kind of wrote it like stream of consciousness right after it happened, because I was like, I'm not going to retain all of this.
No.
Like, it's not going to happen.
I'm honestly surprised you got as many details into that journal entry as you did, because now I just mean, if it were me and I if I was able to sit down and if I was ever able, I'm not a writer, but if I was ever a writer and I was able to write something for Star Wars, and Mark Hamill, and Mark Hamill's Mark Hamill's in there telling oh, you're doing such a great job, and make sure he's involved, I'd been just like, I would be like melted goo brain, just done.
Totally.
Yeah, so I'm impressed that you got as many details as you did, because I would have been like, Mark Hamill, he was nice.
Well, and I think that's part of why I did it too, was because I didn't want to forget. Mm-hmm. Because it really, like, all of it was surprising and wonderful. And the fact that they knew, apparently Jack and Helen had set up the session, saying, just giving people an introduction of who I was. And apparently and some of them have kids and grandkids, and I think Sam had like grown up watching the show. So like they knew the material, but they were all jazzed about that. And I was like, yeah, I'm jazzed forever that I had the chance to work on that show. But again, it's like Doctor Who is a 60-year-old like megalithic worldwide phenomenon. Right. And I'm anyway, it was and like I never met any of these people, obviously. Like mm-hmm. I don't know any of them. And I've only ever heard wonderful things about Colin, and he was extraordinary. And I think that's why I kind of tried to capture that moment, is because it's like, even in those moments, it's like Colin was being the doctor, like, and that's cool. That was so touching, and just, I was already in love, but like all that did was made me love the man even more than I did.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you for letting me share that.
Thank you.
Thank you for sharing.
Living vicariously through you over here. That was
exactly. It's very cool.
Oh, and by the way, I do have the trailer. I have 2 clips from my episode when you guys want to share those. So let me know.
Yeah, definitely.
And now for a trailer for BBC's Doctor Who.
From Big Finish Productions, Doctor Who, The Sixth Doctor Adventures, Water Worlds.
An ocean on the moon.
Oh, Doctor, I'm speechless.
You're still talking.
Close as I get. Brilliant.
Does this belong to you? Are you part machine?
More like part action figure. I come with my own accessories.
Big Finish, for the love of stories.
Where is it available for people to listen to? Because it's like the
Yeah, it's a full audio production. So there's music, sound effects, and it's currently available for pre-order at bigfinish.com. And if you check out my handle on Twitter at @ZombieTardis, I'm hugely obnoxious about it, and I will continue to be.
As you should.
It will be coming out sometime in the month of May.
awesome.
And so I'm going to keep a lot of happy links there to it.
Perfect.
But the title is called Water Worlds, and it's a box set.
I had to ask
Okay.
now because otherwise I would forget.
Oh no, very good. And it's available as a CD box set or digitally.
Awesome.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
So I recently, not to distract from all the awesomeness that we just had.
No.
I recently just rewatched Avatar: The Last Airbender, and my
Yes.
all-time favorite is Uncle Iroh.
Oh,
His
yes.
wisdom and his joy in life has always been an inspiration to me. So what was it about Uncle Iroh that drew you to him? And tell us a little bit about what inspired you to write Legacy of the Fire Nation.
Sure. Thanks, Nick. It was a really special thing to write. So a dear friend and comic book writer, Richard Hamilton, he's got a great series out there called Scoop. And he recommended me for what it's essentially a licensed book. And so the idea is this one was a scrapbook format. And the majority of it are letters from Iroh to Zuko. And so the way this works is, it's I definitely wanted some experience working in other people's sandboxes. And it's absolutely the kind of thing that I was wanting to build a resume for this kind of work so that, as things like Doctor Who came up, I was ready. But for something that was just a job, it's like I didn't know that it was going to be from Uncle Iroh's POV. So when they were launching me on the premise of the thing, I was thrilled because he's my favorite character. And like the idea of somebody having, that painful and darker history, but then, making that choice to be someone who, is literally just a font of love, like love and knowledge and comedy. And so I really took that responsibility seriously. And so, when you're doing this kind of work, you go back and you prep, right? So you refamiliarize yourself with the character. So I'd read some of the other spin-off material on comic books. I went back and rewatched a bunch of the series, and in particular his episodes. And I felt like I understood where he was coming from. And when I first watched the series, I was not a father.
Mhm.
And so now I felt like, now that I'm a dad myself, it's like I understood even more about his relationship with Zuko as really an adopted son, not just uncle and nephew. And so I just really connected. And then I think the best thing is like, I tend to be very over sentimental in my writing. And I think I shared last time with y'all that, I will pitch, hugs to Dan, and, I pitch him 3 because I know who's going to cut 2 of them. Right. So, but I think in my heart of hearts, it's like, I know that the best way to kind of deliver that sweetness is to make sure that it's couched in comedy. It's couched in something else. So I think the opportunity for Legacy of the Fire Nation was like, oh man, I can be really honest about the human condition and pain and all of that stuff and your place in the world and the legacy you leave behind. But I can do it all with humor because it's Iroh. It's Iroh's point of view. And so one of my favorite things, this is so stupid, Nick, so forgive me. So, so much of what I was able to share last time when we chatted and today, even talking about like you have these long-term goals, right, that you work toward, and you don't know how they're going to manifest, if at all, right? And I've been very blessed that I've had these opportunities, and Avatar represented a really interesting win. When I was trying to get work in the animation industry, this is like 2005, 2006, I was working in production as a PA on Shrek the Third. And so I had my first job, but I wanted to get in as a storyboard artist. I wanted to get in as a writer. I wanted to be paid to be creative. And so I applied to a lot of different fellowships and opportunities. And one of those was for Nickelodeon. And so they were like, yeah, write a spec script for one of our shows. So I was like, okay, I'm going to write a spec script for Avatar. And my buddy Justin Ridge, who just got done show running Resistance, Star Wars Resistance for Disney Plus.
Oh, yeah.
He was an assistant director on Avatar. And so I was kind of picking his brain about the show. And my favorite character was Sokka. So again, comedy, right? Comedy first. So I was like, I ended up writing this spec. It's not very good, but essentially it's about they find a Bender impersonator. So somebody who's actually used rudimentary technology to pretend to be a waterbender. And so there's like, pipes and like an Iron Man style suit made out of bamboo and things. And
do that all the time in the shower.
Right? Watch me bend. It's too hot. So the idea was for Sokka to meet somebody who he would idolize and then realize that him not having superpowers is okay. And so I wrote this whole story, and it is all right. But I had this joke in it at the very beginning where Sokka is like razzing Aang about his wind bending. And he starts calling it, how did he phrase it? Wind breaking or breaking wind. And so I put a fart joke in my Avatar spec.
Why not?
And actually, hold on. So 15 years later, if you look in the Avatar book, I actually put the joke in here. There's nice. There's a bit in this. So don't throw anything away, especially bad fart jokes. So all of you hopeful writers. Okay, let's see this. Here we go. So page 49. So part of the concept of this scrapbook is, like I said, it's letters, a lot of letters from Iroh to Zuko and some back. And then for those who want to check it out, ooh yeah. Let me see the Fire Nation.
That's awesome.
Totally amazing illustrations in here by Sora Medina that really make this book. But there are also letters from Team Avatar in here, and they write to Iroh. So bottom of 49. Hey, Zuko's Uncle Iroh. Katara's making me write this letter because she thinks she's our mother. Anyways, you're pretty funny for an old guy. And you're pretty old for a funny guy. Please stop making me drink your tea. Thanks for helping us out and being old, or whatever it is Katara wants me to thank you for. Signed, the leader of Team Avatar for life. No takebacks, no erases, Sokka. P.S. Are you sure there's no bending for jokes? Or how about bending for gas? Or is that just breaking wind?
That's awesome.
Nice.
So I felt vindicated in not having my script accepted all those years ago, and then got the chance to make that ridiculous joke and more importantly, write in the voices of these characters that I genuinely loved, just in a different format.
Mm-hmm.
Have you read the thing, Nick?
I have not, but it's on my to read list.
Yeah,
now.
in your spare time.
Yeah.
I didn't want to put you on the spot there. But it's like easily my best reviewed thing that I've ever written. Like, I think there's over 1,000 ratings on Amazon.
Oh, that's
Mhm.
awesome.
Nice.
And I think it's been out of print once or twice. And then on Goodreads, like, and I usually don't look at this stuff for good reason. But man, like, I made a lot of people cry, you guys.
Nice.
And I felt like
that's-
that was some accomplishment.
Yeah.
That's actually one of the books I keep saying I'm going to buy for my daughter, because my daughter Kendall is a huge Avatar fan.
Oh,
And I-
awesome.
And so I keep it's in my to buy list. And I keep saying I'm gonna buy that, and then I forget. So
Then you buy more
that's-
Funko Pops for yourself instead.
Zing!
I-
Wow, how's that under the bus there?
I'm
Tim?
on Kendall's side, Tim.
I'm
You-
pretty
you-
sure there's tire marks on my back.
Yeah,
You know, last time we had Josh on, you only had like 10 up there.
I know. I was rewatching the episode before we did this today with you. I want to make sure that I'm not saying the same things. And I'm like, it was the
But I just got President Loki.
Yeah, come on, guys. Do you have a Crocodile Loki?
No, but I need to. I want that one pretty badly.
Yeah, cool,
You know,
cool.
I give Tim crap about his Funkos, but then I was actually shopping for a Funko this morning. So
Ha!
Oh dang! Do they have
Suck it,
do they
loser.
have Throg? Do they have Frog?
I don't know.
Thor?
I have not seen Frog Thor.
Okay.
I don't recall seeing it, but I'm
I'm currently in the market for the Ian Malcolm Funko.
Oh, very nice.
yeesh.
Because who doesn't want a Funko of Jeff Goldblum on their desk,
Nobody that I know.
right?
I want it.
I know, right?
Yeah.
There's a couple of them, because with Jurassic World, is it Dominion, the new one coming
Yep,
out? They've
yep.
released
Yeah, where
another,
they're gonna merge everything.
they've released another Jurassic Funko set.
Oh dang it.
I know. So then you got the older Ian Malcolm, but then there's also the wounded Ian Malcolm from the original.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
I want the Funko of Jeff Goldblum shirtless with Sam Neill listening to his chest. That's like the greatest
Yep.
GIF meme ever
It's like
made.
it's the Funko is just him like draped with
Yes.
his shirt open, and
Yeah, it's amazing.
it's hilarious.
I
On,
want
like,
one of him standing next to the giant poo pile. So
And he says, that's a lot of stuff.
that's a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
Oh man, I want to watch
All right.
Jurassic Park now.
All right, so Josh, a lot has happened since the last time you were here. You have been a very busy fellow. We've talked about your Doctor Who project.
Yeah.
Apparently you won an Emmy in there somewhere.
Somewhere.
Somehow, right?
If we paid
I
attention
don't
to
know.
stuff
I
like
don't
that.
know.
Who we
Who can keep up with this stuff?
who anyway.
Ooh.
Who but
Oh.
there is one project in particular I want to ask you a little bit about.
Mm.
Now understandably there are NDAs and you're limited as to what you can say.
Mhm.
But as we talked about the last time you were here, we're big fans of Phineas and Ferb, Milo Murphy's Law, and we know that you're working now on Dan Povenmire's new project,
Yeah.
Hansel, Hamster and Gretel.
Yeah.
But inside of your NDA limitations,
Mhm.
could you please tell us what the show is about and possibly when we might be able to start looking for it?
So we don't. So part of the struggle, as I'm sure folks have shared with you. So even outside of the NDA is like, we don't rate very highly on the updates arena. So my the current knowledge I have is that it's this year. We're gonna come out this year.
Okay. Fair enough.
People who get paid more than me get to decide all the specifics. And certainly all signs point to probably on Disney Channel and on Disney Plus. But that's not the kind of thing that they share with us. But I'd say based on like what they're doing with Amphibia currently and Owl House, I think we'll probably follow like in like that.
Okay.
So I'm really optimistic, and I can tell you that I've seen a lot of color animation come back, which is very exciting. And we've been working on this show since fall of 2020. So finally getting to see kind of the fruits of everyone's labors has been hugely satisfying.
I'm sure.
And yeah, and then as far as I probably can't say a whole lot. I will say that it is very much in a superhero arena,
Mhm.
which is
Okay.
really fun because I think that That's something that Milo and Phineas, to me, always felt like they were adjacent,
Mhm.
right? So like Doof is a mad scientist, but very much super villainy.
Right.
And
Absolutely.
I wouldn't say that Perry is a superhero, but
He's a
and
secret
certainly
agent.
we had. Oh, go ahead, Kathleen.
He's a secret agent. He's pretty close to
Yeah,
being.
he's pretty close, right? Yeah, superhero
Inspector
adjacent.
Gadget.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So I think within the realms of the sci-fi and fantasy, and certainly on Milo at the outskirts of that, it's like Milo is kind of superhero, and I think that certainly when I was writing him, it's like that's part of what I was doing, is
Right.
that I think I may have shared this with y'all last time, but like I really thought of him like John Connor. I thought of him like, yeah, if some kid's going to be really adept at dealing with bad things, at some point he's going to be responsible for helping save the world, and that is a superhero quality. It's a really funny show. I think it does a really great job of splitting the difference between being really grounded and relatable. That's a lot of the conversations that we have, is like making sure that the kids' stories feel like our kids these days.
Right.
And then I think I think it comes through on the promise of that kind of Phineas and Milo comedy and wackiness. Plenty of songs.
Perfect.
We've got some great songs, like the characters are completely insane. I will share that. Hopefully Dan won't get upset with me, or Joa, our amazing head writer. But like one of the things we've been doing in the writers' room is like, is this stupid enough? Like our bar is this crazy enough?
That already makes me want to watch it more. So
yeah.
I've been super excited.
Strive for the silly.
Yeah.
Strive for the silly. Was that Kathleen?
I've been super excited for the show since we heard.
Oh,
about
good.
It. Even more so now that my 3.5-year-old has a hamster herself.
Oh.
Like, I feel like this is going to go very, very badly in all of the best ways in my house.
Oh yeah.
So Disney's on a clock until the hamster can continue living.
When she tries to tell me that she needs to put a superhero cape on her hamster.
That's awesome. Hamster is absolutely hilarious, and certainly in a Phineas and Ferb Milo vein. I don't want to give too much away, but like you will recognize the archetype. And and we have a really amazing voice actor for hamster.
I'm just looking at the picture on IMDb. It's just like the logo and Gretel holding hamster, and I'm just even looking at that, I'm like, I can't wait.
It's and to be perfectly honest, I think that even just that image, I think that Dan did, like that they were using as I'm hopeful that we'll have more marketing and stuff materials soon, but like I said, they're not forthcoming all the time about that, but the tone of that image is really accurate. It's cool. I mean, I think it does a surprisingly good job of selling and explaining what the show actually is, and in some ways there's things about that like we're trying to honor as writers, like if sometimes we'll get too far afield, and it's like there's a core emotional element to that, which is one of my favorite parts of the show. I
just love the way she's got her little hand held out with a hamster.
Yeah, it's so adorable.
Stoic look on the hamster's face.
Yeah, there's a lot of stuff played on just that, on hamster's face, expressionless face, and I lose it every time.
I'm looking forward to it.
Love it.
It's
because we talked a little bit about it with Dan when he was here. I think we talked a little bit about it with you when you were here last. We talked with
Swampy.
No, because Swampy
Amber.
We talked with Amber.
Oh yeah,
Amber about it. Yeah,
we talked with her about it. Because she's working
Amber
on the project
a couple
as well.
Amber directed a couple of my episodes, and she just
Yeah.
her and the storyboard team like just plussed everything I gave them. So
Yeah, so we've been having this anticipation build for it over the last year with the couple of you different guys coming in and talking about it, and I'm like, so how about now? How about now? Is it done yet?
how about soon?
How about
How about now?
Are we there yet?
Legitimately,
Exactly.
Even more so with my kid having a hamster. I'm like, I need this in my life.
Well, I'm hopeful. So there's this thing. So this is a little bit behind the scenes, but there is this thing that depending on the show, sometimes Disney will leap in with the consumer products early, or they wait to see how season 1 does. And I'm hopeful that this is something that Disney will get on board with sooner rather than later for that reason.
Yeah.
I mean, I think particularly Hamster is poised to be, knock on wood, but poised to be breakout,
That'd be
and
cool.
and super funny.
I'll tell you right now, Kathleen will totally buy a plushie hamster.
I have room.
It's done.
I want one too.
It'll go next to my unicorn from Despicable Me.
Nice.
There you go.
Hey, that's a classy company.
Or
It's so fluffy.
It's so fluffy.
with Luigi and Guido that I just got today. My camera's
Oh, nice.
because I'm a grown-up who buys toys for herself.
Yeah, I don't know anything about that. Oh wait.
Yeah.
Oh wait.
Nice.
I have.
Yeah, I've got Ben and I've got Galactus over here
Ooh,
and Reed.
nice.
Yeah, I have a Chekhov Funko up there. I have a tiny Light Bright. I have Bert and Ernie, but I have Lego Bert and Ernie because
Oh,
that was
nice.
just fun. Yeah, I've got toys all over my desk. My daughter, every time she comes in here, can I play with that? No. But
Honey,
it's a
those are
toy.
mom's toys.
Those
Toys
mine.
are not for playing.
You have your own toys. I play with these toys. So I was once again scrolling through your Twitter for inspiration
Yes.
on what to talk to you about today.
Yes.
It doesn't. I promise it's research. It's not stalking. It doesn't sound as that way. But you recently, and this is where it gets a little creepier. I'm not gonna say how recently. You posted about decorating your notebooks because if
Oh,
they
yeah.
look too nice, you won't use them.
Yes.
Can you tell us more about your decorated notebooks? Because as another person who likes notebooks, it's just fun.
So I just posted about this today.
That was why I wasn't going to say how.
Yeah,
long.
so here's my notebook and it's covered in stickers.
Oh, I love it.
And so what I do, let's see if I've got any other ones. Here's another one. And we've got Vector Hold is one of my favorite bands.
Yeah.
And Camp Horror, and hold on.
I feel
These two,
sad
these
and
two
boring.
are really
Need
good.
stickers, Tim.
Mine's sad and
And
boring.
Flashback Video again.
That's awesome.
And Fright Rags, they do great horror t-shirts. I love them.
Okay, cool.
But what I do is I buy these for like $2 and then decorate them, because what I found is when I buy really nice stuff, I don't draw in it. I don't write in it. And it's funny because I've talked to a lot of other artists and writers about this, is that there is a thing where like you collect notebooks. You'll be out somewhere, you're traveling, and like this. So I'm so glad you asked about this, Kathleen, because this is so dumb. When I was a kid, I have super vivid memory of like, okay, I'm going to the store. I gotta go to the grocery store with my mom. Whatever's going on, right? We're in a store and I hate it and I'm miserable because she won't let me go to the toy section, whatever. There's no time. But usually the stationery aisle is adjacent to something that we actually need. So I can effectively sneak just around the corner and stay within eyesight. And the stationery aisle has paper. It has pencils and pens. It has sketchbooks. So I would gravitate there at a very young age because it was my only refuge in the store. It's like, if I can't go to the toy section, where am I going to go? I can go to the stationery. So even now, as a 44-year-old man, I will do that. So if I'm going grocery shopping, I will find myself in the stationery aisle just going, ooh, what are these books? What are these notebooks? What are these notebooks? And like, so I've built this habit for myself. But like in college, like we were supposed to fill a lot of sketchbooks as a part of our kind of training. And I would it would short out my brain sometimes, or I would go and buy something that I was like, all right, I'm going to fill this up. But it was like bounded like a book, and it was super nice. And then I would just go draw on single sheets of paper. And now obviously I could have just done what I wanted and maybe bound it later. But what I discovered is that this was a great in-between. If I mess this thing up and I put art and stickers on it and I draw all over the front, like we did when we would cover our books in grade school, right? Then I would feel like it's okay for me to put my raw and kooky and crazy ideas in these notebooks. And what's funny is that when I share that with other people, they're like, I'm the same way.
That actually, yeah, totally. I did that through school. I did that.
Yeah.
I've still got random collections of half-used notebooks that I can't get rid of them because there's important stuff in them.
Because there's stuff in them, yeah. But the ones it does appear to be a fairly universal thing of like, if you personalize it, you tend to finish it. And yeah, I've got like really slick looking stuff, and I did the first 10 pages. Yeah. But then this thing, I feel like I can throw this in my bag, I can throw this in the car,
right?
And like, I'm not worried about it getting messed up. So yeah.
I think there is that nostalgia aspect of it too, because as kids, of course, we decorated things with stickers, and those never got destroyed. So if you still do that now, you still have that. Well, it's gonna be fine. It's got stickers on it. Stickers will hold it together.
Yeah.
I am so putting stickers on this one now.
Yeah.
You need to stickers on.
Because what I've been doing.
Ourselves permission.
Yeah, because what I do, you talk about going into the store and going to the the notebook aisle or whatever. I always find myself when I go to Walmart, I go to the clearance aisle, and I always look for notebooks. This was my last notebook that I picked up, the Infinity War one.
Yep.
So it was all, in my opinion, was already stickered. So I was like, yay, it's nerdy, and it has all my nerd notes in it, and things like that. So
perfect place to keep the nerd notes.
Yeah, that's not too shabby.
So Josh, you're a storyteller, and we love stories.
Yes.
So they have bloopers and stuff of actors. Are there some behind the scenes funny moments or blooper reel type things that happen in storyboarding or writing?
Ooh, good question. Yeah, there can be. So like, invariably things get cut. We've talked about that, right? So in the world of animation, so like we have an opportunity to be iterative. So things will get polished and trimmed and polished and trimmed and polished and trimmed. So Dan and Swampy kind of have this really great process, and we're still doing it on Hamster. But the idea is that you get notes at every step. And when it gets into animatic, we continue polishing. And when the color comes back, we continue polishing and adjusting. So for instance, in some cases, we'll get extra mouths. And our editors will be able to then go in and manipulate the animation when we're still tweaking dialogue and still trying to make things better and funnier and punchier. And from my standpoint, I think that's why a lot of those shows are as good as they are, because we keep refining all the way until air. So sometimes there's cool stuff that like gets cut, like not usually bloopers. Like so for instance, in Night of the Living Pharmacists, I added this Escape from New York bit at the very, very end of the episode. So for those of you who maybe hadn't seen it, but it's a zombie episode of Phineas and Ferb, and it was one of the first things I pitched when I joined the show. And at the very end, everyone is saved, spoiler alert, and I wanted to do this thing where it turns out the tri-state area is actually walled, and there are more pharmacists, zombies, on the outside. And there's a bit where Perry shows up, kind of a la Snake Plissken, in an amazing truck, and he's going to go off and save the rest of the world from the remaining pharmacists. And if I'm not mistaken, so Kyle Menke, amazing storyboard artist, he actually boarded the thing, and I believe it actually got animated. And so for a time, they were talking about doing a box set for Phineas, and I think the Disney Plus thing kind of changed the plans. But that's one of the few bits that I know like actually is out there and exists and never made it to air.
Okay.
Interesting.
And then there's a lot of stuff that gets cut at the script and storyboard stage. Like there's a couple things in my Doctor Who script that I really, really was in love with, that got cut, and I think they're the kind of things that I'm probably going to save for another story. So sometimes that's what happens. But I think the only times I really run into bloopers, and I love them. Like I'm such a huge fan of those. Like I'll watch those on YouTube and everything.
Mm-hmm.
But like when I have the opportunity to kind of sit in and record, and you're hearing these things come to life, like, oh my gosh, it's so much fun when somebody improvises something or flubs a line. But it is a hugely hilarious part of the process, and especially when like, and you don't want people to feel pressure, you don't want them to feel bad, but like it's a human interaction part of this that can be so much fun. And I think there's also something about watching those clips that I always feel like is very inclusive. Like seeing people break character, it's like it makes us feel like we're a part of the experience a little bit. So I'm a huge fan of those. But yeah, usually it's the actors. And like I said, man, like they're such professionals. Even that doesn't happen very often.
Right.
Yeah. Awesome.
Yeah.
Well, Josh, thank you so much for being on our show today. Where can our listeners go to find out more about you and what you are doing?
Sure. On Twitter, I'm at Zombie TARDIS. So ZOMBIETARDIS at Zombie TARDIS. I'm also on Instagram, and I'm on Facebook. Facebook.com/ZombieJosh is my professional page. And then you can go to bigfinish.com and search Waterworlds for my first Doctor Who story.
Thanks for your links, your social links. We will put those in the comments. Thank you for sharing that trailer with us. I'm super excited for this. I'm geeked because I'm a geek, but that
Yay.
happens.
And so remember, guys, subscribing is the single most important thing that you can do to ensure that we get more amazing guests like Josh Pruett, who was willing to come back a second time to this madness. But we also get funny moments for you guys to be able to listen to and interesting conversations as well. So please subscribe. It helps out more than we can really ever tell you. And be sure to go check out Josh's work. There's some super cool stuff coming up. And apparently he wins Emmys when he's away from our show. So another reason to go check him out.
I'll just like go out, win an Emmy, and then come back.
Exactly.
And then win another one,
Exactly. So, and by the way, if you're not happy with the content of our show today, please feel free to lodge a complaint with the head of our complaint department, the Cybermen from Doctor Who. Sure, they're a bit murdery and like to kill anyone they see, but hey, when you're ticked off at your least favorite podcaster, are you really all that concerned with our health and welfare? Probably not. So bring your complaint on a USB thumb drive. And if you can find the USB port on the Cybermen and then live to tell about it, they'll handle your complaint with extreme prejudice.
Thanks again, Josh.
My pleasure, you guys. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you, Josh. This is awesome.
I so appreciate it, and would be happy to come back a third time. So this thing will be out. This thing will be out in May. I've got a story in a Predator anthology coming out in August now.
Oh, awesome.
And then obviously once the show's on for a bit,
yeah,
then maybe we can talk about that in the fall or something.
Done.
I feel Yeah, I feel like when Hamster and Gretel comes out, and we will have our half co-host, the tiny version of the co-host, come on and talk about it too, because I know she's gonna love it and she's gonna.
Oh man, that would be so fun. Oh my gosh.
She's fun. She's fun to throw into the show every once in a while.
How old is she again, Kathleen?
She's 3.5. So.
Oh my goodness.
By the time the show comes out, she'll be 4 about. So.
Yeah, that's awesome.
So nervous about her getting excited and thinking that her hamster now has superhero abilities and like
Oh,
chucking
no!
it across the room. Fly!
Oh my goodness.
So-
We'll put like caution warning on that episode.
Don't throw your hamsters, kids.
Please don't.
Her hamster has somehow already figured out how to escape from his ball, but not be eaten by
yeah,
Michael.
okay, that's a
So-
thing. Yeah,
Yeah, that was
that's a thing. Well, I'm gonna Tim, I'm gonna go ahead and email you the trailer.
Yes, please.
And Nick and Kathleen, all of you, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. It was my pleasure to be here. So,
No, we love having you on the show, Josh. Thank you for being here.
Yeah, anytime. Thank you guys. Take it easy. Best to you.
All right, Josh, take care, bud.
Our show is brought to you by our charity sponsor, the Red Shirt Widows and Orphans Fund, which supports the Wish Upon a Teen Foundation that helps out sick kids when they need it most. And just imagine the comfort you'll give Red Shirt crewman number 85. You'll know that when he joins Joel, Mike, Crow, T-Robot, and Tom Servo in the experiment to see which bad movies are capable of destroying the human mind, that he didn't leave his family destitute and without hope, because the Red Shirt Widows and Orphans Fund has his back and what's left of his sanity.
And speaking of sponsors and show partners, check out this short video from our good friends over at Level Up Lightsabers. Information about Level Up Lightsabers and their online training sessions can be found in the episode description below.
On behalf of the rest of the hosts of Funny Science Fiction, we'd like to thank you for listening to this episode. If you'd like to be a guest on one of our future episodes, please contact us by means of our Facebook group, Funny Science Fiction. You can find us on Twitter or Instagram using the handle @FunnySci-Fi, or you can go to DraytonAllen.com and click the Contact Me link at the bottom of the page. Thanks again. Hope you enjoyed the episode.